Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, pick guardian.
Jared Brandon, as Jared Brandon is out. He's not feeling well.
He's got a pox upon his chest.
Sad guy, sad boy. And he was actually going to join us in the studio. I'm really bummed about that. But in his stead, the trusty Ampmeister Rob Chafe is joining us again.
Chafe.
All the people that have been asking for you.
I'm here. I'm still alive.
He's still alive. I told him. We tried to explain. And most importantly, we've got a fantastic guest tonight. And guess who are you?
I would be Adam Grimm, owner of Satellite Amplifiers.
Satellite amplifiers. Oh, those pretty lovely things that you've been seeing on Instagram and everywhere else, on YouTube and everything. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you got to hear one. Maybe if you're even luckier, you got to play one. Maybe you have one. Mm-hmm. Goodie for you tonight. So we're going to talk to Adam about his awesome amplifiers and find out backstory, find out what's so cool about them, and all the good stuff. So,
Woohoo!
Yes. And Tony, for those, if anybody, we get a lot of new listeners. A lot of new listeners.
Millions
of new listeners every day. And what can people expect on this show?
Well, we're just a bunch of guys talking about gear. Well, we like to talk about boutique gear. Even more specifically, we like to talk to the builders of this boutique gear, and that's things like amps and pedals and accessories and guitars and all the good stuff, and we like to get the story behind the story. Occasionally, we'll do a 101 where we learn something very important about a very specific thing.
Correct, Amundo.
Those were Jared's favorites.
Yes, indeed. So, following suit, we got a great amp builder, and we've got a great, fantastic amp repair fella right here with Rob.
Tony?
No, not Tony. Tony breaks amps. You fix his amps.
Oh, yeah.
I know to tap the tubes with chopsticks.
That's right. Yep.
I put my hand in the back and feel around and see if anything's
Make
loose
sure
while it's on.
That's a
right.
very good idea. Best idea ever.
Yeah, with a wrench. So, anyways, hope you're enjoying our show tonight. We're gonna have a great time. So let's. We got a couple of announcements real quick. First, I want to say a big shout out to. Well, nobody could even understand what that is, Tony.
Was that like them passing by in a car?
Yes.
That was awesome.
In the El Camino.
Thanks to Rode Mics for supplying our awesome gear. And a big shout out to Nick down there in Australia.
Is other Nick still there?
No, it's just Nick.
Just Nick this time.
Just Nick. It's Nick.
Nick
is there. And Nick and I have been chatting a bit on the internets, and it's great talking to him. So, hello, Nick. Hope you're doing well. And go get yourself some Rode gear, everybody, if you need stuff for miking and whatnot.
And a little Vegemite.
Yes. Actually, I don't like the Vegemite, but I do like the Marmite.
Marmite. Oh, my God. Both of those are just...
I love Marmite. I mean, Vegemite and Marmite, it's the same thing. It's just one's from the UK and one's from Australia, essentially, right?
It's like eating a yeast
it's
infection.
So good. No, I don't know what that's like. Adam, do you like Vegemite or
Tony
Marmite?
knows.
I don't go out of my way for it, but if it's put in front of me, I will eat it.
On buttered toast? Come on. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's either going to talk about that or shrimp, I suppose, because that's where all we got. So I also wanted to do, as always, we get great feedback from our listeners, and we recently gave away 2 Vaderin pedals. And I got a note from Stephen Lamb, one of our great supporters.
Oh, yeah.
And he said...
Was he a winner?
Yes.
Oh, I
we
didn't know
announced that.
We did?
Yes.
When?
It's on the things, on the Instagrams.
Was I passed out or something?
No, you just don't know how to use your phone.
you don't have Instagram. Don't worry.
So anyways,
Instagram.
It doesn't come on one of your old people big number phones. So anyways.
What's that shit?
So this is from Stephen Lamb. He said, Todd, thanks for this, the Vaderin pedal. He got the cherry fuzz. I said, true story. I was listening to the Vaderin episode in the car, stuck in traffic, and couldn't wait to get home and check out his pedals. When the pedal designs came up, my wife looked him up and said, "You should get one." Keep that, girl.
Wow.
Anyways, thanks again. I'm happy to be able to support the Guitar Knobs. You guys get me through tough work days and introduce me to so many cool builders. Happy days to you and the boys. Cheers.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. I love hearing that stuff.
Where can I find that, the list of the winners?
On the thing.
On the
Instagram
on
thing.
the Instagram
Yeah.
thing. Jeez.
Tim Novak won the other one.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Bardic Devices.
Wow.
Anyhow, so that was just a couple of quick announcements. We're going to check in with all of us right now and just spend a few minutes talking about what happened in our music world this week. Tony Baloney is going to kick us off, and then we're going to check in with our friend Adam Grimm of Satellite Amps and find out what he's been doing in his music world besides building amps. Maybe if there's anything we can talk about that. Tony, go ahead.
Well, you know, Todd, this is our first show of 2022, which, by the way, happens to be the year of that the movie Soylent Green is supposed to be set in.
Oh, my.
So, happy 2022, everybody.
Yes. Go out to eat.
Yes. Try the crackers. They're delicious.
Okay.
So every year, one of my New Year's resolutions is to try to, pick up a different instrument that I'm not as familiar with as guitar, and learn to play it.
And in fairness, that's a guitar.
Well, it is a guitar, but like last year, I said, okay, I'm going to learn.
You're really aiming high.
Let me tell you.
You gotta start somewhere, Todd. Come on.
Let me tell you. So
tell them what's in front of us, and then tell us about all the other
right. So I decided this year I am going to try to learn to play lap steel. And this is, the lap steel is a 6-string guitar, but you use a slide instead of your fingers on the on your left hand, and you have to pick a little bit with your right hand. So it is kind of the left hand thing is throwing me a little bit, although I'm getting used to it, but it's foreign to me. So one of the things that I like to do is if I'm going to take on a new endeavor like this, I like to have a proper instrument. So what I was able to find, bought on December 31st, 2021.
That got here quick.
No, it was up in Delaware.
Oh.
So it was easy.
Oh, wait,
Nice.
that's Chase's.
Yeah.
I knew I recognized that.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyhow, this is a if you look at the date code that's stamped into the back of the neck, it's a 1938 Recording King lap steel.
Wow. Adam, have you ever played lap steel?
I have.
Are you really good at it?
Not at all.
All right. Let's jam. So anyhow, it's a cool piece. Just a brief history of these. They would have called this an electric Hawaiian guitar at the time. In 1938, Gibson made this Recording King for Montgomery Ward catalog. And you can tell by the serial number, there's a DWE in the serial, or FON number. And the D stands for 1938, the W is for Montgomery Ward, and the E is for electric. So it's a very cool instrument. It's an unusual shape. It's like pear-shaped, most people would call that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, at some point, someone had replaced the original pickup and knob assembly with something from also Gibson
An
made.
EMG.
Yeah, EMG. Yeah, right. That would be great. But it is an assembly, I believe, from either, they used them on some Gibson models and also on some Kalamazoos. And it is a metal plate that has a P13 or a speed bump pickup. People kind of recognize it as that. And
those are cool looking
two
pickups.
knobs. And yeah, it's kind of one of the predecessors of the P90 pickup. Interesting little fact: this uses one Elnico magnet standing up and down as kind of the instead of pull pieces. And so it was cheaper to make than the other ones they were looking at. And at the time, Elnico magnets were just outrageously expensive. This particular setup doesn't really show up until like the early 1940s, so 1941, 42, which is also
So it's futuristic instrument.
well, it's getting into a time where America was at war, so they needed a cheaper way to build pickups at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when this was installed on this particular instrument, but it is very old. It's got a big old capacitor in it, very old pots. I would say this assembly is probably from the 40s. Mm-hmm. I don't know if somebody put it in the 1940s or later, but it's, I'm cool with it either way.
That's great.
But yeah, so that's my.
Well, I
my deal
remember
this year.
when Chase. So we're talking about Chase Gullett Guitar Co. I'm down there all the time, and he. I remember when he had that in, and I was like, "Wow, looks amazing." And he was really struggling with what's the right thing to do with that pickup. So glad you got that.
Yeah, it turns out he did have to send it over to Zach at Brandon Wound.
Yeah,
and it was just a cold solder joint on the on one of the leads.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
So there's really not much else. I mean, it's a little noisy but that's just the nature of the beast of the time.
Yeah.
And it's a single coil pickup. So it's
well,
gonna
I
be a
look
little
forward
bit
to hearing some awesome slide guitar from you.
Well, you will.
I've got an extra strap if you need it.
No.
Adam Grimm, what's going on, buddy? What have you been up to in your music world this week?
Well, I spend 6 days of the week in my shop doing musical stuff, so there's always stuff going on. Mm-hmm. The latest things are, we have a new amp in the works. There's a guitar we got 3 prototypes of those that I've been playing with.
Ooh, I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, me too. It's very exciting. It's been in the planning stages for, I don't know, probably about 3 years now, but I made a prototype of it about 1.5 years ago, and then finally I'm getting off my butt and getting around to getting them together to basically the 3 prototypes have different pickups, neck options, trying to figure out how I want to do this and what the next steps are going to be.
Gotcha.
But everything every day is, I've got about 100 guitars and about 85 vintage amplifiers all surrounding me right now.
And only 10 fingers.
There's always something, and it's, last week I was playing my kids' Hello Kitty Squire Strat because I forgot how great it was. That was the musical thing of the week, of the day. But it changes all the time.
What about this? What's the last vintage amp you bought?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the last vintage amp you bought?
Oh, the last vintage amp. I'm going to change that to what's the last good vintage amp I bought, and that is a 1961 Fender Twin that's sitting right behind me.
Ooh.
Very cool.
Nice.
It is absolutely. I don't like twin reverbs very much, especially the silver face, the really brutally clean ones.
Yeah.
The 61 is a extension of the Tweed circuit, and it's just about the best thing Fender ever made.
Nice. So is it tweed or is it brown?
It's blonde.
Oh, okay. It's none of the above.
Excellent.
Nice. With oxblood grill cloth.
Ooh.
No.
No?
It is a blonde with a wheat grill cloth, brown front, white knobs.
Nice.
Ooh.
And it's sitting in between a 62 and a 63 Bassman setup. So I've got all 3 of them running together, and it's just about godlike.
Now that older vintage twin, was that a 60 watt then?
It is 4 6L6s.
It is. Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
it is. And running into a pair of P12Qs, which are borderline about to explode.
Right. Yeah. Don't turn it up too loud.
I know exactly what you guys are talking about.
I do.
A P12Q is a Alnico speaker made by Jensen, and a P12Q is approximately supposed to take about 18 watts, maybe 20 watts tops.
Oh.
And a twin puts out 80 watts clean.
Yeah.
So amps back in the day were properly rated the same way that comparatively, so they all had a baseline to go against.
Wow.
This is a whole big aside, but I'm going to go real quick.
Sure.
Wattage is not volume. Wattage is heat. But we use wattage as an idea to compare each things to try and give us an idea of how loud something is.
I literally just had this conversation with a guy at my work today.
Okay, good. Then you're on board.
Yeah, he was trying to figure out, choose between a 25 watt amp or a 15 watt amp, the 15 watt Vox AC 15, and the Super 25.
Yeah.
And I said that 15 is going to be loud, man. You don't. They're pretty comparable. Like, I've had both of them, and don't think that you have to jump into the 30 because the 30 is going to blow your ears off.
Yep.
If you measure both of those properly, a 15 watt and a 25 watt amplifier, you will not be able to tell the overall volume difference between the two of them.
I feel really smart right now. I'm not lying.
But if you
really
put a thermometer on it,
a thermometer.
thermometer.
Yes, it will. The 25 watt will heat up your easy bake oven faster. Make your brownies.
Excellent. Oh, well, that's cool. We all learned. Well, hopefully, some people learned some things out there. I got some things that I believed to be true confirmed, which I do like. Cool. Did I interrupt any of that story, or was that the genesis?
Oh, I can ramble on for hours about any of this stuff.
Nothing was
left out that I felt needed to be in.
We got a whole show for you to be able to do that. Let's round this out by. So for me this week,
how about Rob?
I don't care about Rob.
That was out loud. Holy crap! Welcome back, Rob.
Go ahead, Rob.
Music Week. All right. Well, this is kind of a depressing one, and I'm sure Adam, you've heard about Pat at Mercury Magnetics. Yeah. That sucks.
Oh yeah.
So, and you probably met him, right, Adam? Like doing trade shows before?
I know Patrick very well. We used to text all the time, and I knew when he got sick that something was going on, but I never really found out what happened until he passed away.
Want to say his full name, Rob?
Yeah, Patrick Selfridge.
Patrick Selfridge was an industry guy for a long time. He used to work for Groove Tubes, and then he was the main sales rep for Mercury Magnetics for 15 years almost.
Yeah, 15 some years, yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, he passed on, was it the 30th, Adam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and unlike Adam, I never met him in person. I've dealt with him at Groove Tubes over the years, and then when he went over to Mercury, and just a wonderful guy. I mean, and anybody you talk to about it said, yeah, he treats everybody like they're his best friend, and that's just who he was. And really nice guy.
Absolutely. Patrick was one of those guys that supported the boutique business, the industry tremendously. You know, and part of why I use their transformers exclusively is because of him
Patrick.
And also Sergio and a couple other people that are up there.
Yeah.
Sergio's the guy that owns Mercury Magnetics. They've always treated me like an absolute professional, even when I had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, from the first time you call. Yeah.
Yes, and they had a way of transforming a non-electrical engineer's desires of what I wanted out of a transformer into a magical device to put inside of a box.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And when I would call Patrick if I was ordering one transformer, he was always delightful.
Yep.
He was always glad to have the business, ask about the family. Every chance at any trade show, we always saw each other. He will be greatly missed.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's a downer note, but that's the big thing in my music world today was when I saw that.
Saw that post and immediately saw lots of people jumping in on him.
Just like Adam said, there's people all around the world that were devastated by that one. So,
Well,
how about you, Todd?
I had a really nice surprise this week, and I'm not going to give the whole thing away because this is going to unravel.
Give it all away.
For a little while. But my grandmother, who I lost this year, actually 2021 technically, if we want to be stupid about this, but I remember when my grandpa passed away. He was a Navy guy. They had this big chest of stuff. Nobody had opened this chest for a long time, and we're like, oh, what was in there? And all of his old Navy blues were in there, and all kinds of really cool stuff. And this was several years ago, like maybe 15 years ago. And I remember seeing a flash of a couple of things in there. I didn't really think of it at the time because I didn't need to. It wasn't really relevant to me. After her passing, I decided, and also after hanging out with Chase for a long time, I said, I need to find this stuff. And what it is World War II vintage Japanese brocade.
What's that?
Japanese brocade is basically like this silk fabric, like that is got the all the embroidery all over it. You know, so like turquoise with like golden gardens and people walking and dragons and all kinds of whatever. And there's 2 different kinds that I got. Where it was tracking them down through the family, like who ended up getting it. And I begged and pleaded, and so they're sending that out to me.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm very excited.
Are we talking about putting it on a guitar?
I
or
was
on
going to say
amplifier?
it's going to end up being music related here, and it's going to unravel over the coming weeks.
Or are you going to start and become a geisha?
Yes, yes.
I could see that too.
Yeah. But I'm only going to sing Sammy Davis songs.
I like that.
I don't know why that was.
Got a cigarette in one hand and a martini in the other. Yeah.
So, anyways, that was kind of cool because the thing is, it's just been folded up.
Yeah.
For the longest time, since 51, 52 when they got back, and it's never seen the light of day. It's literally just been in this chest forever.
Wow.
So now I get to let their sort of legacy.
Oh, that's going to be really cool.
Be something really cool. So I'll make a couple of things maybe. We'll see what happens. Anyways, so that's what's going on in this music world this week. Tony?
Yes, Todd.
What is the shortest way to connect 2 pedals?
I think you would use you would hook one end into your telephone and then the other end into a modem.
No.
And then bring it back around through and use
I thought you were going to go with
XLR
crankshaft
club.
and a sprocket, but whatever, that's fine. So the quickest way to hook up 2 pedals.
2 pedals.
2 pedals. 2 guitar pedals is by using Tour Gear Designs patch cables.
But what if you have more than 2 pedals?
They've got they've got sizes for all kinds of pedal configurations and your entire board.
Do they have a W-shaped cable?
They don't have a W, but you can make it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, just bend it. It'll be fine. These are flat, like ribbon style cables.
Yes.
With the actual jack is the diameter of a jack. So you don't have a big giant pancake that's banging into the other cables and everything. It's fantastic.
You know how I know?
Because you have some.
I have a bunch of them, and I use them on my pedal boards.
Yep.
And they're real space savers. I mean, I honestly believe on a typical pedal board, you could probably sneak an extra 2, 3, maybe even 4 extra pedals on just by using these cables.
I would agree with that. If you go to tourgeardesigns.com and enter the guitar knobs in the discount code, you're going to save 10%. All one word. The guitar knobs, you're going to save 10% on your entire order.
And this is a Canadian company, so in addition to being very polite, they actually ship things very quickly.
Yeah.
I ordered mine on a Wednesday. They showed up on a Saturday.
So thank you, Tour Gear Designs, for supporting our show and for sponsoring the 4 on the Floor.
Let me have a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3.
4 on the floor.
All right, Adam Grimm, satellite amps. Give us your 4 on the floor.
This took me a little while. I had to think about this because I know that there was I can't use my own pedals, and I also purposely tried to exclude my friends' pedals.
Ooh.
Because I know a lot of makers that make a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And I went over and I've got a lot of pedals, and I'm going to slightly, I think, cheat on one of them.
That's like making your brother your best man. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't have a brother.
See, I was thinking that'd be okay because, I mean.
Well, I know, because then you don't offend any of your friends.
Well, no, but like he shouldn't be penalized because he knows people, you know?
Oh, no, I know.
Or I guess it wouldn't be him being
That's never
penalized.
been
It's his
a
friends that are
thing.
being penalized.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Anyways.
Okay, Adam, go for it.
Okay, so my first one is technically not a pedal, but it's an effect. So I don't know if that's okay or not, I don't really care. I'm putting it in anyways. It's the Klempt Echolet. It's a tape echo made by Klempt. It's one of the greatest things I've ever played through in my entire life.
Is that Klempt?
It is a bunch of tubes. It's a tape echo. It's a delay. It's a reverb. It's got a massive preamp. It's just, if I had to pick one effect out of everything, that would be it.
So is that like a head or a rack mount unit or something? Or?
It's a standalone unit. It's about the size of a lunchbox.
Oh.
I thought he was going to say like about the size of a washing machine with everything in there.
Well, so I don't know how much anybody has seen Klempt or Dynacord stuff. It's the same company. They were a German company.
Okay.
They would do things where they would make giant wooden boxes and put multiples in them with heads. that would end up being like 4 feet long. These just monstrous pieces that make no sense at all. And then you see these pictures and they're being used in an orchestra. You're like, oh, okay, it kind of makes sense.
So
there are some giant ones out there.
Oh, they're beautiful. The Echolet.
Echolet, yeah. Clint.
Wow. You know what it actually looks like? It looks kind of like first time I went to Carter Vintage, and we were in back, and I just lost all my marbles when I saw the Selmer.
Oh yes.
Satellite. It's not the satellite. What is it? Selmer? The one it's all golden crocodile. I can't remember the name of the.
It was a Selmer, yes.
Yeah.
Selmer had a period where all their amps were that gold croc style.
Yeah.
stuff.
Zodiac, maybe.
Zodiac.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh golly, that just captured my imagination like nothing I'd seen. This, although is not covered in golden crocodile, it has some of the same fixings on it. So
Same knobs.
yeah, I love it. That's really cool.
Selmer's a whole other side. I love Selmer amps. I think they're one of the greatest things anybody ever made out of England.
Man, they're really okay. So people listening, if you are not familiar with Selmer amps, go check that out so you can get familiar. And
There's a band called the Beatles you might have heard of.
Yeah.
They played them in the very early days.
I didn't
early
know
Beatles
that.
sound is all Selmers.
No kidding.
Animals, House of the Rising Sun. Who hasn't heard that?
Yeah.
That's all Zodiacs.
Well, back to the Echolet, which is just a beautiful gold box of old awesomeness. I can see why you love this.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It has a little bit of that single coil pickup noisiness that some of that you were talking about earlier, but it's just there's nothing else as good as that for everything it does.
You know what else it kind of looks like? It kind of looks like if someone with just a hell of a lot of panache made a World War II field radio.
Yes, absolutely. And everything inside of it those are all like Telefunken top of the line diamond bottom tubes, which are, every audiophile wants them inside. What's inside there. The transformers are all phenomenal. Every piece, everything is meticulous inside of it.
Wow. What do these typically run? Do you happen to know?
Usually between about, I think on the low end, about $600 or $700. On the high end, $1,200 to $1,500.
That's
somewhere
less
in
than
there.
I thought it was going to be.
It's one of those things that there's not that many of them, but there's also not that many people that know about them.
Oh.
Well, the price just went up.
Yep.
I mean, I currently have 3 of them, and I've had probably 3 others. So I mean, they do pop up, and you do see them. Once you start looking for them, you see them a lot more often.
Sure. Now, did you get into the Echolet amplifiers?
I have one of those too. Yes.
You lucky guy.
I have the AC. I basically have what it's like the EC40. It's basically an AC30 in a tiny little metal box like that. It's a single channel, and it is delightful.
Wow. I'm looking at one called the Mustang 100, and it is quite beautiful, quite lovely. It's black and gold. I love that.
Sold.
That's like my color thing, man. Well, that's really cool. I love that we've found like a new thing. That's really neat.
That's the first time.
A whole bunch of new things. Boy, we're going to get lost in this. Sorry, we're taking so much time on this Klimt Echolet. You guys have to go check these out. If you're not familiar, get familiar. And we'll collectively buy as many of these as possible before this comes out. All right, what's next?
Pedal number 2 is probably going to have to be my BFD tremolo pedal. So BFD was made by a company called Vintage Technology. Probably, I think they were mid-90s. And the BFD, I'm assuming, is probably Brown Face Deluxe or something of that. It's just one of the greatest tremolo pedals I've ever had or used. It uses a really obscure 15-volt battery that is now out of production, so it's a little bit annoying.
Oh.
There's ways around that. But it was just one of these pedals that when it came out, not a lot of people knew about it, but now they're extremely hard to find because the people that have them will not give them up. And it is the closest I've found in a pedal form to an amplifier's tremolo.
Okay. I like that you brought that up, and here's a lightning question for you. Of the amps that you are familiar with, have played, whatever, what amp do you think has What amp has your favorite tremolo?
The Selmer TV12T.
More specific.
The 1962 Selmer TV12T that is sitting approximately 15 feet away from me, and I will not sell for any amount of money you offer me.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Now, what do you love about that?
It's lush, it's rich, it's delightful, it's choppy, it's angry, it's smooth. It's just got everything you want that doesn't overly detract from what you're doing.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
My second favorite is a 1955 Silvertone. The 50-watt combo with tremolo is also very hard to beat, and it is Bo Diddley in a box.
Number 3.
Number 3 is probably has to be my Ibanez Fl 301 Flanger. It is a bright yellow box, same time frame as the TS 808 Tube Screamer. It is their flanger, and it is brutal in a flanger. It goes into such extreme regeneration. It goes all over the place. It's great to annoy the neighbors, but it also has enough subtlety where you can just roll it back, and it's just smooth, and you barely even notice that it's there.
And this is, you said this is the FL01?
It's the FL 301.
Oh,
Flanger
301
from Ibanez.
Okay. Let's see.
All the Ibanez stuff at the time was the, TS's Tube Screamer. The phaser is the PH 201, I think.
Yeah,
all of them have a really dumb numbering system.
Yeah, so that's the one with the little square button,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just recently purchased the FL9 I got one from the Japanese one from the 80s.
Great pedal.
Oh. And I the first time I heard that, I said, well, now I have to have one of those. Doggone it. Probably for the same reason. Yeah. There's something cool about that, those old pedals. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be featuring a 101 coming up about Japanese pedals. Ooh, it's going to be good. All right, so let's see, number 4.
So number 4 was where I got hung up. Those first 3 were pretty much fairly easy to get through. Mm-hmm. Number 4 was I've got a bunch of fuzz, distortions, Jack Super Fuzz, big muffs, all these things that are phenomenal. And then I spotted a pedal that I've almost had completely forgotten about and how much I absolutely love it for all of its horrible reasons. And that is the Digitech Crossroads Eric Clapton pedal.
Ooh, okay.
I did not see that one coming.
Nobody ever sees this one coming. It's like the
Spanish Inquisition.
There you go. So for those of you that are not familiar with the Digitech Crossroads Eric Clapton pedal, it is a 1 in, 2 out, not stereo, but there are 2 outputs. And there are 7 different models on here of 7 different Eric Clapton songs that you can scroll through to get to sound just like him.
Yes, because it has nothing to do with his hands or his technique.
I paid $5 for this, and I probably overpaid for it.
Yep.
But it is the one pedal I love to pull out when people want to talk about pedals and plug it in and go, no, you got to hear Model 6, the Layla acoustic Clapton pedal.
Yeah. I like that. I like that you can play high ball and low ball. I like that.
Just for kicks, I just typed in reverb, and those are actually selling for like $90 to $120.
No kidding.
Ooh.
Yeah, believe that. And I remember those pedals very well. That's when I used to manage a music store, and we got loaded up with a dozen of those. Took us forever to get rid of them at cost. Forever. Yeah. So I guess I should have bought them all.
You should have bought them all.
Yeah, what were you
You'd be
thinking?
$1,000 richer.
Yeah. The compounding interest on that would have
Right. Well, Adam's
not helped you at all.
Adam's made $100 and some bucks too. So.
Yeah. Outstanding.
Nice.
Well, Adam, thank you for sharing your 4 on the floor. Those were really fun.
And all unique, right?
Yeah, totally. That's
Yeah.
great.
I don't think
Does anybody ever bring up a tuner?
Yes.
Okay.
But
I thought that might be too obvious, but
it is.
Tuners are helpful.
They are helpful.
Todd frowns upon a tuner.
It's you got to have a tuner. You got to have a tuner. But the thing is that they usually are either going to be a TC poly or the the boss, the TU2.
TU2.
Yeah. Almost exclusively, that's always what they are. So we're like, okay, anyways.
What if you like a strobo?
Sure, yeah.
Peterson strobo tuner.
Yeah, just plug in a strobo.
I've got 2 con strobes that are tubed that take about 20 minutes to heat up. And
I have one of those too. The brown case with the thing, the front opens up, and
I've got that one and I've got the black one, and they both take up a great amount of space on my shelf.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So we're going to now transition into the most awaited portion of the show by some, maybe not all. I don't know. Hopefully all. Because we're talking to Adam Grimm, founder of Satellite Amps out in San Diego.
Proper.
Okay. San Diego, California proper.
But wait, what if a listener was interested in finding out more while listening to the podcast?
That's a good point, Tony. Where can people go to do that, Adam?
Oh, there's this thing called the internet. It has things on it like facebook.com/satellite amps.
Perfect.
There is a Instagram account called Satellite Amps.
Yeah.
There's a website called satelliteamps.com.
Yeah.
Or you can just Google Satellite Amps. Oh, there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/satellite amps.
Nice.
I'm sure that you can come up with the recurring theme here.
The internet.
You got lots of. You got all the socials covered.
Yeah.
There's a Twitter. I think there's a Twitter that I have too, but I don't think that I don't know that I've logged into it in probably 6 or 7 years because I don't have that much to say on Twitter.
How about a TikTok? You got one of those yet?
I almost got a TikTok, but I don't dance.
And if you did, let's just say maybe everybody doesn't want to see that.
How about a MySpace? You have a MySpace out there?
Yeah, it's I
still got
don't know how it
MySpace.
is with you guys, but the commentary you get sometimes from the listening crowd makes it definitely performances are not always well appreciated.
Yes. Oh, my God.
I'm going to call attention just really quick to something that you posted that I almost dropped the phone on. I'll see if you can. I'll give you one guess at what you think it might be. But this is just to give you guys some understanding of visually what is possible with these amps. It is the only blank scamp in existence.
Oh, I know what that is. That's the red one that's sitting out at New York Guitar Store.
Oh my gosh. You guys, this is absolutely stinking gorgeous.
Yeah, that came about. There's a guy who's a good friend of mine who also occasionally works and does stuff here called Andrew McCaig. Well, he's named Andrew McCaig. He's a delightful guitar player that you might have heard in a band called the Presidents of the United States. And he was over at the shop one day and he's like, why don't we make a red one? I'm like, I don't have a reason to not make a red one. So we made a red one.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It got sent out to the New York Guitar Store right before COVID hit. And then everything was shut down. And it's basically, they've opened up the store now, but it's, sat in isolation out there for quite a while, just hanging out, waiting for everything to open back up.
Wow. It's way cool. And I love that you got the red transformer. Now that I don't know if that's not inside the amp. That's another one sitting on the top, correct?
Well, the transformer is, you're talking about the picture so there is a slightly secret thing on top of that amplifier,
Yes.
the picture you're talking about.
It's slightly secret, but out in the open. So I'm explain that one.
Well, it's out in the open. So there is a group of people that are restarting an old brand.
Uh-huh.
And they have asked me to basically rebuild one of the original amplifiers from the company. And the prototype is sitting on top of that with the tubes on it.
Yeah.
Of which we have just put that into production. I don't know how long that will take, but I'm making all the amplifiers, doing all the electronics here. And then there's some cabinetry stuff that's going on that is probably going to not be me because I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And do you guys do all of your own cabinetry?
Yes.
Wow.
Pre-COVID, there were 4 of us in here working. Post-COVID, it's just been me in the shop.
Wow. That's
running everything.
an awful lot of work.
The guitars were done slightly. We're jumping ahead in the story of what happens. But so when we've been making the cornet guitars with the trademark, and we did all that, and we were doing that for 6 or 7 years total. The rough woodwork was all done here in San Diego, and then all of the finish work was done in Williamsburg by Josh out at Protocaster.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So those guys, we were doing some of that during COVID, and so that those guys were still involved in it, but none of them were here in my shop.
I think maybe one of the most recognizable amps out there. I think, as far as especially the head units out there.
I love how they
that.
look.
Yeah,
I'm very happy with
killer.
it.
Can you dig in a little bit on how you got there?
Sure. Well, you want so to really quickly touch on the look of the amplifiers and how they came about. The first, I originally built 2 amplifiers when I was in a Hawaiian band called the Cheap Lays. And I played ukulele.
That's awesome.
And there was the lap steel player had always wanted a 1939 Epiphone Console Grande, which there's apparently 2 of them they ever made, and nobody knows where they are. What this is that there was a center section with an amplifier in it, and then the legs would come off and form the case for the actual lap steel.
Huh.
So it was this giant contraption, very cool, and it's great to see a couple of pictures from back in the 30s of it, but it's never seen one in real life. So the guitar player in the band was a cabinet maker, and he offered to do the cabinets. And at the time, I was in the antiques business, and I had a friend that was helping restore radios and electronics. And I said, hey, listen, I want to build a couple of guitar amplifiers, and I've always been interested in electronics and tinkering, but I'd never actually built one from scratch. So we built 2 amplifiers for that band, and that's what got me hooked. When I got out of the antiques thing, had some money and some time and nothing else to do, and decided to start an amplifier company. And at the time, it was, had an idea of a design of what I wanted. Was not happy with the stuff that was available. This is like 2004, 2005. Mm-hmm. What was commercially available, I thought, was either crap or it was overpriced, or both. Oftentimes, and I thought we could do a better job of it. So I had an idea of what I wanted and what I was basing it off of, and I basically was taking from a lot of old designs and trying to mash them together. Mm-hmm. My own playing stuff. By that time of my life, I was getting really into 1930s amplifiers, the early Zephyrs from Epiphone, all the electro Hawaiian stuff from Gibson, the 185, the 150. The Rickenbacker, all the amplifiers that basically had one control. Sometimes you would have 2. Growing up early, my first real big amplifier was a Marshall JCM 800, a half stack, great amplifier. Looking back, I realized that I played it basically the same all the time, and the tone knobs were really useless for what I was doing. Because I would just time everything and play it. That was my sound, or what I thought that, a humbucker into a DS1 into a Marshall JCM 800, and that was it. But I wanted to make an amplifier that was sounded good, was very easy to control to make it sound good. I like Mesa Boogies. I appreciate what they are. I can't stand playing them because it takes me too long to get them to sound good. This was back in the day. This was, 1986, 87, 88 when I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When that Mesa Boogie came out at that time, it was like, I think right around 1988, it was like 30 knobs, and I just had no idea what to do with any of them. And so, a lot of my thoughts into the first satellite, or what became the very first satellite, was trying to get into this, very easy controlled. And the way that I found that I would play is I set my amp up and then I go play, and I don't go back to play with my amplifier to change how I'm sounding. If I need to clean up, I roll my volume off.
Yeah.
So a lot of my controls was in my hands and in the instrument I had, not in the amplifier. So that was the basic idea of the design behind it. And we built a 2 EL84 amplifier, and it became the Neutron. And it was the first amplifier I ever put out, and we still make them almost we changed transformer companies early on. We were using Haybowers in the very beginning, but we quickly went over to Mercury, and we've never changed that amplifier yet. We're still making it.
So, question that I have for you is, after you come up with what you deem to be like, this is the amp to solve all my amp desires and woes and problems, you make more and different kinds of amps.
So, all right. So when I made that first thing, I didn't really have a lot of foresight into, I'm going to turn this into a career that might be life spanning. It was more of a, I have the money and I want to do this. Let's try and start this. I didn't really have a whole lot of guidance as to what I was going to do for the second amplifier. It was more a, can we pull this off and make one?
Right. How many did you make before you started going like, hey, wait, this is a thing?
So we made 25 total of that first one. But before all 25 of those were made, so I got another guy involved to help me do the wiring, because I could do some of it, but it was sloppy. It was slow and sloppy. So I got somebody that was a little bit better at wiring than I was to help me out. And he said that he would be happy to help wire, but he didn't want to do anything else. Didn't want to design. Didn't want people to know who he was. Didn't want to have to talk to anybody. So that's great. This is perfect. And so I made a couple of them and got them to a couple of friends of mine. And I've been in the music industry and known musicians pretty much since I was about 14, 15 years old. And so I got one of them to this gentleman by the name of Ron Heathman, who was in a band called the Super Suckers. And he took it out and he said, this is great. It's just not loud enough. And I said, okay, well, I'll make it louder. So I designed what's now known as the Atom, which is much bigger transformers and more power tubes, but basically the same front end as the Neutron has. And is basically just a much bigger power amp section. It's 4 EL84s. The transformers are about 3 times as big. They're monstrous when you see them compared to. And I built the first one and the prototype, and I still have it, and it still works delightful. I'm like, all right, this is great. I'm satisfied with this. So I made a second one to get to Ron. And this is back when I didn't know how to get a chassis made. So I would, we would buy blank Hammond chassis. I would buy blank Hammond chassis and drill them out by myself, in my garage, in my backyard, and do things like that. I didn't, really didn't know how to manufacture anything. So I took the amplifier. Super Suckers happened to be in town, and I was going to go drive it down to their show to drop it off to let them go test drive it and try and break it. Super Suckers used to be a phenomenal band. They were a great live band, and they were really hard on gear. So it was a great test also for durability for me to give it to these guys and go, here, take this out on the tour, bring it back, and let me know what happened to it. Mm-hmm. So as I'm going down there, I get a call from my friend Otis. He was in the Cheap Lays with me. He's a friend I've known since the late 90s, local musician. He's Otisserie on Instagram. He's a photographer, skateboarding guy. Yeah. Works with Jay Mascis and all of that people. Yeah.
Does he does some, forgive me if I'm wrong, but he does some cabinets.
So kind of. So
okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's another story. That's fine.
Well, so I love O. He's a great guy. I don't know if he'll ever listen to this because he hears me talk enough as it is. O used to come by, and I would see him probably 5 days a week in my shop. And so O would always come up with he would find some random piece of cabinetry and be like, all right, I'm going to make this into a speaker cabinet. And the amount of work it would take to turn into a speaker cabinet was probably more effort than it was ever worth, but it was always a fun project to do. And so a lot of his cabinets of speaker cabinets and stuff were done here in my shop with some help from me.
Okay.
So that's why the humor there. And I'm sure he's got other things, there's always something that with O, and like I said, I've known the guy forever. He's a great friend, toured the country with him, gone to trade shows, hung out, great guy.
Gotcha.
So he called me up and said, bring it over to Soma, which is a club in San Diego, because Social Distortion's playing. I'm like, okay. So he happened to be over there, and I would go in there and walk in the back door and meet Johnny Two Bags, who is the other guitar player in Social Distortion, and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, he's like, "Great." He's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I make amplifiers." And I said, "Here, try it." He said, "Great." So he plugged it in and played for about 2 minutes before security came over and yelled at us for playing during somebody else's sound check. And Johnny said, "Great, can I take this one?" I said, "No." He's like, "All right, I need 2 of them." I said, "Okay, great. I have to make a 3rd and a 4th one then." And that's literally what happened. And, their manager chased me down on the way out, or their tour manager, that, gave me all of the instructions that, I was not allowed to give them anything. He had to pay for it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I'm not doing that. This is, yes.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah,
I
you're not
don't
gonna
give
get
any of
one
my
for
stuff
free.
away. All the people that play my stuff are people that have bought it and that want to play my stuff, which I'm very proud of that fact. I don't toot my own horn well enough. As my wife tells me, is that, there's a lot of great people that have paid for and play my stuff all over this world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how everything exploded from that point on. I can directly relate a lot of famous people playing my stuff and also amateur people playing my stuff from those 2 guys, from Ron Heathman and from Johnny Wickersham,
Yeah.
2 Bags.
That's I like that, and I like the fact that it's going back to Johnny Two Bags and that whole genre of rock and roll. I grew
Absolutely.
up watching
But,
him
you
in
know,
the Cadillac
so-
Tramp,
so-
so it was like, I was like, I know he's great.
He's a sweetheart of a guy. He is absolutely one of the greatest people out there. He is somebody who is very honest and true to himself. There's a lot of people that send him stuff that would love to get him to just, pose with it or play with it. And he always sends it back because he doesn't want it. He only plays what he wants to play and stuff that he truly believes in. And that's it. He won't do it. Even with financial incentives, it's not in him to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And directly from him, and Ron and Andrew are friends, McCaig from the Presidents, and they also happen to know this guy named Mike McCready. So, and Social Distortion happened to also open up for Pearl Jam, which is the band that Mike McCready plays in. And so that's how Mike found out about us. And we got a call. I got a call from their road manager right before the PJ 20 tour happened, and I got a call, and the guy was delightful. He's very nice, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I've worked for Mike McCready. He's interested in trying your amps, but we can't find any. Is there any way you could just send us for us to try out?" And I said, "Sure, that's no problem. It's Pearl Jam, of course I can do that." And talking to them, and I said, "How soon do you need them?" They're like, "Tomorrow." I'm like, I have these 2 in red sparkle, and that's it. Okay, great. Shipped them off. I didn't really hear anything for a little while, a couple weeks, and we had to go do a trade show in Nashville, the Nashville Amp Expo. And I had met a gentleman by the name of Night Bob, who Night Bob is one of these mythical sound men of yore that, if you're in the industry, you know who Night Bob is. If you don't, my mom has no idea who Night Bob is. She never will. But Night Bob, he worked for Johnny Thunders back in the day. They bought their first Les Paul Juniors to get their New York Dolls. He worked for, the last big thing he was doing was he was working with Walter Becker with Steely Dan. But he worked with Aerosmith before they were famous and while they were famous. All kinds of people. Night Bob's a great guy. Love that guy. So we were at this Nashville Amp Expo, and I get a call. We're literally setting up the room in the hotel, and I get a call from Night Bob. He's like, "Are you in Nashville?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're at this Amp Expo." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "All right, well, we're in town. We're sound checking, and Walter Becker wants to try one of your amps. Bring one over." Sound checks at 4 o'clock, and it was like 3 o'clock. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, great." I've never met Walter. I've never talked to Walter. I don't know Walter. There's nothing in here, Mike. But I tell the guys, I say, "Great, screw the booth, grab an amp, let's go." So we, literally just stopped what we were doing, hopped in the car, got over there, sound check had just ended. We missed it. I'm like, all right. So Walter comes off. I get to at least meet him. I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this. And and he goes wandering off. And Nightbob goes, oh, wait, don't go anywhere. I'm like, okay. About 5 minutes later, Walter comes back out with the rest of the band, and they take the amp up and they decide to test it right there in front of us. And so I got to see Steely Dan play 4 songs just for me and 2 of my guys.
That's cool.
As I'm sitting there in the audience, I get a text from Andrew McCaig. The amps are on the PJ bus, which means Pearl Jam took the amps to go on the PJ 20 tour bus, and they were buying them.
Wow.
Oh.
That was a pretty good day.
Yeah.
I would say so. You could probably write that in your diary.
Yeah. Hang your hat there. That's cool. So, it sounds like you've developed something that's just tumbled along in a really great and serendipitous way.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about that just seem to happen. I think part of it is the people that I have working with me and doing all of this are all genuinely good people. We don't fluff anything. We don't make anything. We don't lie about what we do. This is it. We wear our hearts on our sleeves. If you want a Mesa Boogie amp, by all means, go buy one. Mm-hmm. They are great for what they do. I don't do that. So I'm not going to try and sell somebody something because I just need their money. I want them to be happy, and I want them to be, I want these to be pieces of gear that people buy and they give to their kids. Or their kids sell on eBay after their parents are dead or whatever it is. Like, I want people to have a lifetime of experience with our products. I don't want them to be just throwaways or stuff that they go instantly online and sell. It's actually something I'm kind of pretty proud of, is that you really don't find a whole lot of them used.
Yeah. Now, are you primarily doing point-to-point wiring?
Everything. All the amplifiers are all point-to-point.
Okay, cool.
So when we got into doing the pedals, the first couple pedals that came out were all point to point, and then we went to a circuit board. So I'm going to just jump around because it just flows what I'm talking about. Yeah,
just do it. So just do it.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, they'll eventually can read my book whenever I decide to write one.
My Life in Amplifiers.
So there's a guy who named Brad Davis, has a company called Creepy Fingers. Delightful guy also. He's a bass player for a band called Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
So when he started off making pedals, he called me and we talked. We were friends and we were talking about how to actually use a soldering iron and all that kind of stuff, and how do you make a pedal, kind of things. And he was doing a great job. I absolutely love his stuff. Honestly, they were hard to not include them in my 4 on the floor deal. But like I said, try not to have any friends in my thing. But all right. So Brad was having a problem because the only amplifiers he had to test his stuff none of them were normal in the sense of things that everybody is familiar with. And this is something that is hard for a lot of people to understand. But when we go do a trade show or something else, and people expect me to have, if you're trying out my amplifier, I'm going to give you a guitar you're familiar with. You're going to have my Les Paul is the most generic sounding Les Paul, but it sounds exactly like you expect a Les Paul to sound like. Mm-hmm. I want you to use that because it's familiar for what somebody who's never played my stuff. It's not, if I give you a guitar you've never played before, and I give you a satellite guitar, the new one that's coming out, you have no idea what it sounds like. So I would rather give you something you're familiar with so that you can hear just what my amplifier does. Or if you're trying my guitar, I will give you an amplifier and say, here's a Tweed Deluxe. It's a familiar amplifier that most of us know what it sounds like. So there's no surprise in that. So Brad asked me to make him a little preamp that he could take and use as basically a generic sounding. I want this to sound like if I plugged into a Marshall, is what he wanted. Mm-hmm. And so I, being the smart Alec that I am, I was going to make the most over-the-top tube pedal that I could. So I used a power transformer. It plugs into 120 volts. I made something that was called the Eradicator, and it is a 12x7 cascaded right into the other. There's 60 dB of gain. It's way over the top. It's completely obnoxious. And he thought it was hilarious, and he's like, "I can't. This is great. If I play this, then everybody else is going to want to buy this and not my pedals," or some kind of comment like that. And it was all done in fun. And then Andrew McCaig, he happened to be down. He's like, "This would be great for fly-in gigs," because a lot of what they did was just fly-in stuff. So he could take that and plug into a PA system and get all of his tube stuff that he wants out of it, and not care about what the amplifier was. And so we would make some. We made probably, I don't know, about 50 of them maybe total. I would make them whenever I got around to it. It was, it wasn't really so much as in production, but it was if you knew and you asked me, I would build you one. And eventually, about 6 or 7 years later, I was messing out with something else. We were making a tube amplifier. I was making a tube amplifier that was all battery powered. So it was a 20-watt amplifier that ran off of a 14-volt remote control car batteries, and we found a power supply that we were using and had developed that would turn 14 volts into 290 volts, so we got our high voltage for our tubes. The battery packs would give us about 5 hours of playtime, and no one could turn you off. You could play it wherever. So there were 2 of those that were made, and we called them the Portawatties. My shop is 2 stories. I'm in the basement right now, and the entrance is in the upstairs. So me and another guy were over here doing stuff, and it was about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And we're like, "You smell that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it smells like, did we blow up a crossover?" Because we were playing with hi-fis and doing stuff. And I'm like, "No, I don't think so. Nothing. I don't think anything burned." And so we go upstairs, and one of the desks is on fire.
Oh my!
So anybody in the remote control car world knows something that I didn't know at the time. Apparently, remote control car batteries sometimes burst into flames when you charge them.
Oh, wow.
So you have to charge batteries in asbestos bags.
No kidding.
So thankfully, the flames were only about 18 inches, 2 feet off the desk. We put it out and thanked our stars that, 10 minutes later and the whole building would have been gone. But that amp never came out. But the power supply reused and made the Eradicator pedal as it stands right now. So the Eradicator pedal as it stands right now is in a larger enclosure, and there's a reason for that also. But there's a tube in it, and we get 289 volts exactly on the B plus of the tubes. It runs off a 9-volt wall wart, and you still get 60 dB of gain. It's a little more controllable and not quite as obnoxious, but it's still an extremely powerful tube amp in a box, basically. And part of the enclosures, Sam Ash did the Astro Fuzz. So Sam Ash Fuzz and the Astro Fuzz back in like 60, 68, 69, something like that. It was a pedal that they made that was 5-sided. It's very unique looking, and I've always loved the look of it. And so when we were doing the Eradicator, I realized that, and this is not to knock everybody that uses Hammond boxes or that like that, with my eyesight, when I walk into a guitar shop and I see a wall of Hammond box pedals, I can't tell what any of them are. They all look exactly the same to me. Mm-hmm. But there are pedals out there like an Octavia. If you held up an Octavia 50 feet away from me, I know exactly what it is. So we wanted our pedals to have that same footprint where you would see it, and if I held it up across the room, you knew it was one of my pedals.
That's smart.
And so that's part of why those are that way. The other is because that one in particular has a tube in it, and we needed the extra airspace so that it doesn't get too hot.
I like the decisions that you're making as far as design and trying to make them stand alone. And
well, a lot of things were I without bragging, I think I have a good eye for what looks good and what doesn't in this world, whether it's, bathroom designs or amplifiers. I stumbled a little bit when I first made the amplifiers and got the look to what they are. At the time, it was all done with a skill saw and a drill and a lot of liquid nails and stuff in my backyard because I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't have a whole lot of great measuring tools, but I was a smoker. So everything is dimensions of cigarette boxes.
There we go.
My cutout is, 3 Marlboro light boxes turned on their side. That's it. 2 high, 3 wide. And that's how everything was measured off. And then that's that golden ratio or whatever that is. And it worked out for exactly what we're doing.
I like it.
So back to your amps. As the builder of these amps, what sound profile would you say your amps are closest to, so our listeners can get a general idea?
So I understand your question. It's a very, very difficult thing to answer in the terms that people want. And people ask me this question a lot. It's because we use terms of reference, and this is part of why I have all the gear that I have. When somebody says, does it sound like a Fender? That to me is a meaningless term. Because I've got 15 Fender amplifiers all within earshot of me, and they all sound extremely different. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that it sounds like a Fender. In the sense of profile-y stuff, so the Neutron and the Atom are very classic rock to heavy rock. They're upper mid-range heavy. They're very aggressive. They have switchable rectifiers, so when you switch the rectifier out, part of that is more touch sensitivity than it is wattage. Mm-hmm. And this, I don't know how far down this rabbit hole we want to go, but it's part of how an amplifier works. If you want me to go down that route, speak up. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling with what I've got.
Run with it.
So as those went, all right. So a tube is a rectifier. It converts the high voltage AC off the transformer to high voltage DC for the tubes to use, because tubes are technically DC devices. So our tube rectifier is very inefficient. So what happens is that if you have a 5Y3 rectifier or a 5AR4, GZ34, any of the variations thereof, when you play a note, it sags. It drops the voltage. If you watch it on an oscilloscope, you'll actually see it drop, and then it comes back up, and that's where we get what's called note bloom. So that's your compression, that's your note bloom, that's your very touch sensitivity. A solid state device, when you put in some diodes like a 1N4007s, they are almost instantaneous. It's not quite, but there's no sag to it. So you get a much tighter sound, and you get a lot more articulation. So if you're playing a lot of notes fast, you're going to want a solid state rectifier. That's part of what that all is.
Gotcha.
So back to what my amps sound like. So as the progression of amps went from the Neutron to the Atom, the next one up, we did the Helium, which was an attempt to kind of make it a little bit more American sounding in the sense of Tweed Fenderish. I have a Tweed Super that I absolutely love, a 1955 Tweed Super. It's probably the second greatest amp that Fender ever made. It's just awesome. And so we did that, and we still make it. I ended up putting reverb on it because there's a lot of people that were asking me for an amp with reverb, and it worked really well with that. It's also the one that I think the only amp we have right now that's offered is a 15-inch combo, which there's a dedicated amount of people that love 15-inch speakers. After that, we did the Omega, which was the attempt at a 50-watt, more of a clean platform. It got angry when you really pushed it, but there was a lot more clean headroom, a lot more pedal-friendly. A lot of my amps are made because it's how I like them. So it's I usually just plug straight into the amplifier. I don't worry about pedals. I'm not in a band. I technically own a couple of pedal boards, but I think there's only pedals on one of them. I don't have to worry about it. So if I want a pedal, I just reach over and grab it out of the case and throw it on. If I want to play
what's on the other boards? Sandwiches?
Yes.
Perfect.
And so, after that, then there was a second version of the Omega because people wanted it to be angry earlier. And then we did the Elmer, which is my take on the Selmer TV12T. That's my favorite amp of all time that we talked about right. The Tremolo. So the Elmer is that one. And then I didn't know anything about trademark law. So Fender used to make an amp called the White Amplifier, which was named after Forrest White, who was the head of production, the floor manager, basically, head of production guy at Fender in the 50s. and everybody's dead, so nobody really knows the exact story. But the rough answer is that Leo Fender made an amplifier called a White. It's in Fender script. The schematic is exactly the same ones that Fender used, but it says White. It's a White higher fidelity, model 80. They made a lap steel. They made a single amplifier. They probably made about 1,000 of them. I absolutely love them. We remade that amp and called it the Niveus. So Niveus is Latin for white. That's how we did this. And I was at a concert. It was an outdoor concert. I think it was a Social Distortion concert, to be honest. And there was a guy there by the name of Bruce Zinke. And I had never met Bruce Zinke, and got to meet Bruce and hang out with him and talk to him of Zinke amp fame. Right. And this is when he was buying Supro and Park. And he told me how easy it is to buy up old trademarks that have been abandoned. It's very, very easy. If somebody abandons a trademark and nobody has it for 7 years, anybody can go buy it. If the trademark even existed. If it never existed, you can just go buy it without worrying about any of that. And there's a couple other intricacies to it, but it's really just about that easy. I went, really? He's like, yep. And so we registered and we got the trademark for the White amplifier. And so we started making White amps. And we actually went to the point of, I took at one time I had 11 of the old 50s White amps. I'm down to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I actually took 2 of them and took the transformers out, sent them to Mercury. They hand unwound the transformers. We inspected everything. We went back and forth, and we got them to make exactly those White amp transformers. And we're the only people that have them. So if somebody calls up Mercury and tries to buy a White amp transformer, they will sell them a transformer, but it's not the correct one because they won't sell it except for mine. Mine comes only to me. Nobody else can get it, which is another reason I love Mercury and all the things that they do. But we really tried to make that amplifier as close to the original as possible, and why there's not other variations of it. It is a sugar pine cabinet. It's the same thin covering. It's the same particle board or composite board with the eyelets. We got Gavitt Wire. We found out about them, and which are the people that made the original wire back in the 50s. The Gavitt Wire Corporation, we kind of let the cat out of the bag with this one. They made the wire that Fender used in all their amplifiers in the 50s and 60s. The Gavitt Wire Corporation still exists. The grandson runs it, and they still have the same looms that still make the same wire. So if you want original Fender wire, they still make it. Huh. It's not hard to get. We found the people that made the original nameplates, really went as far as we could to remake the White amplifier. And it's essentially a modified version of a Tweed Princeton. And that's what got me into doing trademark stuff, which eventually led to other things. And then we had a couple other amplifiers that came out. The CUDA was the other big one. I'm sure. So the CUDA is our 45 watt. It's for lack of a better, so there's a tube that's called the KT66, and back in the day, the Gold Lion KT66, from the 1960s, was, in my opinion, one of the greatest audiophile tubes of all time. It's just absolutely phenomenal. The problem is they're about $400 a piece if you can find them. There's no supply of them. Everybody knows it. They're beautiful to look at. They're beautiful to sound, my wife's family is all from Connecticut. So we go we go to the Jersey Shore in summertime. We go to Connecticut for Christmas usually. So I was back there. My buddy Doug over at Mountain Cat Guitars calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm having a Christmas party. Come on over." Walter, as in Walter Becker, is going to be there, and so is Night Bob. I'm like, okay, great. So I come over, and it's Doug, me, Walter, Night Bob. That was it. Delightful time for a Christmas party. And we're chatting with Walter, and by this time Walter ended up buying like 12 or 14 of my amps. He had one of the guitars, he had every pedal. He already had a couple of my things, and we would have conversations. Walter was a delightful. I really miss that guy. But he said, "Well, why don't you ever make any like big bottle tube amps?" And I said, "Well, honestly, because nobody can afford the tubes." And he went, "I can." Mm-hmm. And I went, "Oh, okay. I'll talk to you in a couple weeks then. And so I did. I built an amp based around KT66s, and it was the prototype for what became the CUDA. And he loved it. That was the amp that he played at every single Steely Dan show from that point on. It was on everything. And when he passed away, a buddy of mine bought it at the auction, and he ended up giving it to me. So I now have it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. Walter didn't want to have the auction. He knew he knew he was dying. He didn't want all of his stuff auctioned off. His wife auctioned it off anyways. I knew he didn't want to do it, so I didn't feel right buying any stuff back from the auction. I refused to participate. But it was still a funny auction to watch. I was very happy to watch my stuff. All right, so there's an aside with this too. So I'm trying to how to politely use some of the terms I need to use. So there's an amplifier that I made 12 of, and it is a Fender style amplifier, and we used a Fender style script, but we used a different word that began with F and ended in ER.
Ruh-roh.
So Walter had 3 of these. Watching the guy on the video have to try and explain this, because the auction was broadcast live on the internet, is one of the greatest things ever. It's really worth it's worth looking that one up for those of you that want to hunt down the YouTubes of things. So we did that, and I made this amplifier, was thrilled with it. This was my magnum opus. This was just this great piece. I was just thrilled, and I can't make any more of them because no one else can afford the tubes.
So here's a question for you. It's kind of side note. So do you only use NOS tubes?
No. So I try not to ever use NOS tubes. I try to make sure that all of our amplifiers are made with all new production everything.
Okay.
I don't want to give any. I'll make one-offs every once in a while, but nothing that's in a production I ever want to be stuff that people won't be able to get tubes for or supplies for ever in the future.
Yeah, I asked that question because you mentioned the cost of the KT66s. So I was.
Well, and at the time, no one made a proper KT66.
Oh. So
a buddy of mine called me up and was like, "Oh my God, you have to try this. The new Gold Lion came out, the KT66. It's great." I'm like, you've said that before, but it's sure. He's like, no, really, go try these. I'm like, okay. Bought a pair of them and was blown away. They were the first properly done KT66. So to explain a little bit about tubes, most power tubes that we use are pentodes, which means that there are 5 main parts in them. A KT66 and any of the KT tubes are kinkless tetrodes, which means that there is one less part in them. And part of being kinkless means it's how it distorts is different. So when a tube like an EL34 distorts, it clips the top of the note. It's a very square wave off of it. A kinkless tetrode, it's a smoother curve to that, so the distortion sounds slightly different. And when people talk about guitar tones, one of the great classics is the Clapton Beano tone. I don't like Eric Clapton as a human being, but the tone on that record was lovely, and that is KT66s. That is pure and simple. Why that amp and why so many people struggle to find it, because Marshall's reissued that amplifier I don't know how many times, and they've never put the right tubes in it. And without those tubes, it will never distort and sound properly. To the point where I met Billy Gibbons one time. I actually met him a couple times. But the first time I met him, and somebody, Ron Heathman from the Super Suckers, introduced me to him, and he was there for some photo shoot when the band was playing, I don't know what. And Billy pulled me aside and said, "Listen, I got a question for you." And so, what is it? He's like, I can't get the Clapton Beano tone. I can't nail it. What am I doing wrong? And I went, you're Billy Gibbons.
Do it. Just do it.
And so I had to talk with him about the tubes and all that stuff, and and it really comes down to, for that guy, that he doesn't have Clapton's arms. I mean, or whatever. It's
Yeah.
But so all of a sudden we have these tubes, and then it was all right, this is the game changer. This is the tube I needed for that amplifier I built for Walter to put this in production. And that's what became the CUDA. So I called up Patrick over at Mercury and talked to him and talked to Sergio. And I said, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want. This is what I did for the prototype. And I used a vintage transformer in the prototype that I knew what it was. And we discussed it back and forth. And Sergio had just gotten another one of those transformers in. And it's an extremely rare peerless transformer. And that's the other secret to the magic. It's a transformer that is just, Peerless is a company that they basically made stuff with Altec, Voice of the Theater, extreme audiophile stuff. And it was their last great transformer they made when everybody was going to transistors. And it's just one of these transformers you can just go, yeah, that right there. This is everything I want in a transformer. And so that's basically what we used for the output transformer, a slightly modified version of that to fit my needs a little bit better. But that's where we started from, and it all just fell right into place. Serendipity.
Yeah, it's really you want an amp builder that speaks as passionately about the cold hard parts like you do to get behind the sound that you want to make. I really appreciate that about you.
Well, thank you. It's every once in a while you'll hear me ramble on about this. I love what I do. I am good at what I do. I am a horrible businessman. What I'm doing is, and this is the way that most boutique amplifier and guitar and pedal makers are. We're really bad at it because to be a good businessman, or woman, I should be going the cheap route. None of this should matter.
Yeah.
I should be going to China to get the cheapest transformers I can to maximize my profit. I can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah. But that's what makes your amps different from somebody else's amps, and that's why we have so many varietals. And
it is. And this is what segues me into the Scamp. So the Scamp that exists was the first amp I ever designed by price. Everything else had a sonic picture in my mind that I wanted, that I was going after. There was a reason for it. There was something in there for whatever reason that I was after. So the Scamp, I went, all right, I'm going to see if I can build an amplifier that we can still build here in San Diego in our shop and try and get it under $1,000. And so looking at all of this, I realized that we can shave almost $500 off just by canceling the cabinetry. The wood, the covering, the labor of doing it, all of that stuff, and getting down to a metal cage. And when I was trying to do this, I talked to Patrick over at Mercury and said, listen, this is the project I'm doing. I need to get these transformers down to this price. What do you got that will fit that? And the answer was nothing. We don't have anything that will fit your price point. I said, okay. And he wasn't mean about it. He just said that there was nothing on the books that existed that we could pull from. So one of the things about transformer design is if I can use a transformer like, say, a Tweed Champ transformer in something, the design already exists. They already have them on the shelf. I could order one and have it in a couple days. If I'm designing from the ground up, we're starting over from scratch. So anytime that you're trying to do something for a cost for designing an amplifier, if you can use an off-the-shelf transformer, it saves you money. So that's why I was trying to do it this way. And so we eventually, said, all right, what about this? And he said, if you can order these in quantities of 50, we'll meet your price. I went, done. Absolutely done in a heartbeat. And that's the great thing about them. I mean, he spent a good day and a half trying to rack his brain to figure out how to make it work for us. And I'm not Fender, I'm not Marshall, I'm not selling hundreds of thousands of units. And that was one of the great things about Patrick and everybody at Mercury that's still there that are still great, is how well they treat you because of things like this.
Mm-hmm. Now you said it's under $1,000, but this is. You got it marked at 600 to $19.99.
No. So the Scamp is $849 retail.
Gotcha.
So if you're on my website, you're looking at a price list of certain things. If you order it with a cabinet, you can put a half deposit down, and that's what the $600 is. Oh. So with it, so head and cabinet, I think is $1,200.
That's still a killer deal.
Well, it's the Scamp it's a phenomenal sounding amplifier, and it is all made in here right now by me. It's all point to point. It's all mercury magnetic transformers. It's all Gavit wire. It's all the same terminal strips or turret boards that we use for all the other amplifiers. It's all
And it's a killer looking amp. I mean, it's just
I think it looks great.
Freaking cool.
And I've since started putting all the other amplifiers and making them available on that same chassis.
That's smart.
So, and it shaves $500 off the cost for everybody.
That's cool. I like it. It's smart and cool.
For probably 85% of the people that play my amps are people that play at home or in small bands with their buddies. They're not professional musicians. They're not out there touring. So anything that you can do to shave off $500 off the cost of something is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way. If I could shave $500 off of the stuff I was buying, I would be thrilled to do that.
Well, Mr. Man, I'm really stoked on what you're doing, and I really appreciate you sharing so much of your story with us. Aside from just the top level stuff. Anyways, it turns out that Jared's not home, but here we go.
Uh-oh.
Tony, you want to give us a
Jared impersonation?
Yeah.
Would you rather?
Yeah, he just does it better. He just does it better. Well, so you're walking down the street and you remember that you're late.
I'm late
for for your uncle's. He passed. Your uncle passed. This is sad stuff. But they're having a big old party down by the lake.
Awake by the lake.
Well, it's down by the lake because they're going to memorialize him by sinking his two favorite things, which is this awesome 70s custom van with the bubble window in the back.
Merlin with a Merlin on the side?
No, not Merlin on the side, but the big bracket striping. I can't remember what that's called. Not
Starsky and Hutch.
Kind of, yeah. And behind that is his favorite other toy, which is his speedboat. Now, the reason this is relevant is that custom van, his two favorite colors were purple and green.
Purple and green.
That custom van was purple and green. It was purple with the green like metallic, the big stripy bits on the side that were all, lots and lots of them, pinstripes and all kinds of stuff. Lots of stripes.
Sounds kind of gross.
It's a little gross,
like
but also
Gravedigger?
Pretty cool. Kind of, maybe, but you know what I'm talking about, like the scallop stripes, like on the old Impalas and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the speedboat is purple, like heavy flake purple, with green flames. And so they sunk them. Both of them in the lake, and you're standing there to watch it. Now your cousin comes over to console you, and he said, "Hey, I know how much you loved your uncle, and I know how much your uncle loved those two, that van and that boat." And
well, wait a minute. How did the van get out into the water?
They sunk it. They drove it and they sunk it. Don't ask questions. I wasn't there.
The boat pulled the van out. Then
the
van,
boat pulled the van.
The boat pulled the van.
Right, and then the van pulled
it was backwards.
Under. Yeah,
it was.
See?
Yeah, we got this. They reversed it.
Now
Anyways,
it makes sense.
so he says, "Hey, I know how much you love guitars. Your uncle had a stripped down Bo Diddley box guitar in his closet, the square, the twang machine, except just the flat square one.
Yeah.
Unfinished. You're like, what? I hate that guitar. Maybe you love that guitar. I don't know. But the thing is, it's a big rectangle guitar.
Yeah.
And he said, "You're lucky, cousin, because I happen to be a hell of a painter." Now,
let me guess. He has
to memorialize
two colors.
this, would you rather have this Bo Diddley box guitar painted like the custom van, which is purple with the green hot rod stripes, the lowrider kind of stripes on the old vans, or flake purple with flames? All right. We're going to go Tony and then Rob and then Adam and then me. All right. Tony, what are you doing?
So I've got an unfinished Bo Diddley guitar.
Yep, the box.
The box.
The square.
The square. The rectangle.
The rectangle.
Technically a rectangle.
Technically a rectangle.
What kind of pickups?
Oh, I imagine they're the Gretsch ones.
Like Filtertrons?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that sounds good. What
Yeah.
kind of tuning machines?
One in the bridge. That's it.
What kind of tuning machine?
Shut up. Pick the thing.
I'm going with I'm not a flame. I don't like flames on guitars.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to go with the purple sparkle.
Yeah.
Right? That's still
Yep.
sparkly. And the gross green stripes on it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Rob?
Oh, so they're both sparkly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the
Those are
the
his
other
favorite
one-
colors.
Yeah, the other
Oh,
the
okay.
one with the flames like the boat was very sparkly. Like,
Okay.
It's like speedboat flake.
Oh, okay. Okay. So bigger flake.
Heavy
okay.
flake.
All right. All right. I'll go with that one.
Okay.
with
Which
the
one?
flames?
Yeah, flames. Honestly, I don't really. It's more sparkly. So
Okay.
I'll do more
Is
sparkly.
it flame maple?
Shut it, Tony.
flame maple blue
dirty.
diddly? Yeah.
Okay. That's 2. All right. Let's see. Adam, what would you go with?
Did you say flames? Yes.
I really hate hot rod flames. I would go purple metal flake with stripes.
Yay!
All
And-
right.
And if I have my personal choice, I would want it plum crazy purple from 1969 Metal Flake Dodge.
Ooh.
That
okay.
is the best.
You know
one.
what, Adam? Why don't you go ahead and order 2 of those up from cousin
Three of those.
Harold?
3 of those.
Oh,
That's
3 of
fine.
them. Yeah, we need a 3. We'll get a discount now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And probably Jared will want one too. 'cause
Jared will want
is-
one for
is
sure.
plum crazy.
he loves the heavy. He just loves all the sparkles. Anyways, okay, that was super fun. That was sent in by me.
Oh.
A couple minutes ago.
Wow. I like the way that it meandered through the whole thing. there.
Yeah, it made. But now to see it all makes sense.
I guess.
So, anyways, yeah, go eat your potato salad at the memorial. We need to say thank you to a few folks here.
You know, Todd, at this point of the show, there are a special group of people that we love to thank. These would be our executive producers. Now, there's somebody out there might be wondering, what's an executive producer? And maybe more importantly, how can I become one? Very easy, folks. Go over to patreon.com/the guitar knobs. Check out a couple of different levels in which you can participate. Become a sponsor of this very podcast. Each level comes with a great bevy of thank you gifts, including things like T-shirts and stickers and pics and all kinds of good stuff.
Yep.
Check it out.
Yeah. Do it.
As an executive producer, you get all that great stuff.
Uh-huh.
But there's one thing more.
You get to have your name read on the thing.
That's right, Jared. Your name read on the thing. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers. Tom Burrazen, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Ken Sayers, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Anthony Lathrop, John England, John Esterle, Justin Jones, James White, Matt Hart, Bill Gola Guitars, Richard Kendall, John Jackson, Jason Roush, Gary Cooper, Mark Garton, Elad Mizrahi, Mike D, Trevor Gunberg, Rick Calhoun, Anthony Gemalero, John Helverson, Drew Lopez, Fader and Pedals, and Moon Guitars.
Excellent.
Wait, Todd,
No.
wait. There's more because we have another very special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs in their individual jacuzzis filled with some unknown orange liquid.
Yes.
So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, David Kaminga, Science of Sound, Cody Foster, Sean S. Tom Emanasco, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Tim Nowak, Tyler Rhines, James Pennington, LSJ Music Company, John Williams, Johnny Morales, Mel Sanders, Bob Crouch, Sam Jett, Michio Murakishi, Martin Cliff, Hex Metos, Michael Van Zant, Brian Robinson, John Daly, Ricardo Igareda, Brandon Wan Pickups. Oh, wait! And yes, Todd, we have a new Grand Poobah.
Ooh.
Caleb Myson Joyce.
All
Welcome aboard,
right.
mon frere.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Welcome, Caleb. Glad to have you. Thank you so much for supporting our show. All right. Adam, we need to find out, just remind everybody where they can go buy your awesome amps.
The internet, stores, places of interest.
Excellent. You can go and your YouTube and make sure you check out his Instagram too. Satellite Amps Instagram's fantastic. I love seeing what's popping up on there.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And Tony, where can people find you?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out the pickguards and fun stuff that I make. You can order things right off the internet on a lot of cases, but I do mostly custom work, so shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, what you want, what you're trying to do. I might even have some good advice for you, so check it out, pickguardian.com.
Sounds good. Rob?
Mad Cow Amplification on Instagram, Facebook.com.
Perfect.
Wherever.
Love it. You can shoot me an email, todd@theguitarknobs.com. You can also send me a DM on Instagram @guitarknobs. Love to hear what you have to say. Share us your would you rathers and anything else. Love to hear from you. Humongous thanks to Adam Grimm from Satellite Amps. Thanks so much for being here. It was an awesome time talking with you, and we really appreciate you sharing all of your awesome story and thoughts and everything, and for making a fantastic piece of equipment out there.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a wonderful new year.
Thank you as well. Hey, everybody, have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe!
I'm sitting on the floor. I don't have a chair.
Tony?
No, Todd. Rob. He didn't leave us yet.
Yeah, fantastic. He's still there.
Crickets.
Still awake.
You've lasted longer than any guest we've had on the episode.
I'll try and enunciate extra just in case.
No, just floppy hands.
Floppy.
Got my clown hands on.
Good joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't like playing the reindeer games. I know that you guys will. So
I have to make a poop.
what?
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at guitarknobs. Catch you next time.